What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Cutlass Board Games channel. Once again, I have another script that I have been working on for Blood on the Clocktower, and I'm going to be running through it and talking about some of my ideas and why everything came together in the way that it has. As you can see, there is a mix of new characters and old characters, and I have set up all of the new characters on the board so we can run through them one by one, and then I'll kind of run through the whole script cohesion thing at the end. But the main idea behind this script was that I wanted every evil character to have a set up instruction. I'll give you an example. Let's have a look at Flintlock. Flintlock is a demon. Each night, Asteris, choose a player, they die. Classic. All players register as the demon to you and the Slayer. You have the Slayer ability +1 Slayer. That means that the Flintlock can claim to be the Slayer, shoot someone, that person will die. It doesn't matter who they are, they all register as the demon. But the Slayer can do the same thing. If the Slayer shoots someone, bam, they will die. But there's still a chance that there's a demon. This is trying to recreate like a classic duel feeling where there's going to be two people that have that one shot that no matter what will kill a person during the day. But the demon having it can either force people to execute them because they can't trust that they are not the Slayer, or if there's 4 people alive, it can force a final day scenario. So whether or not that just gets you killed or creates a 50-50 with the Slayer, I'm yet to see. A lot of the way that designing characters and stuff for this game goes is you build it out, you go, okay, does this work, does this not work? Your sanity check, right? Is this broken? Can this work on a script? What characters does this need to work? Obviously, this needs the Slayer on the script. Then you go and test it. That is what I'm going to be doing tomorrow with my regular group. We'll be playing the game, recording it. I'll put that up later so you can check it out and see how it worked or not. And then you go back and you go what worked, what didn't, and then you adjust things. This is my first pass. I haven't had a chance to test these things yet, but I wanted to talk to it and have a look at it so that you can kind of see some of the ideas I'm having as it's happening. But Flintlock is one I think that will be really fun because it just, adds some different stuff. Now, that was Flintlock, the demon. Let's just go around clockwise. Next up is the Stargazer, which is a townsfolk. Each night, Asteris, choose 3 players, not yourself, and learn how many of them are evil. This is kind of like a more powerful noble. Instead of having you start knowing info, you get to choose each night. And how you place the people you're checking will help you narrow down that number. So this could be potentially very powerful, but we have a foil demon to the Stargazer in Uno, which we'll get to later. But I think the Stargazer is really cool because it means that as the game narrows down, you can check people, and it doesn't differentiate between minion and demon. So you're just like, okay, well, I think all these people, I want to kill them. Getting a 3 is going to be incredibly unlikely. And then trying to figure out who of the people you picked were the ones that were evil. Do you want to pick whole new batches? Do you want to split, like you picked 3 and you got 1? Do you want to pick one of those people from the 3 and a new 2 people? How you want to use that, I think, is going to be really interesting. And then the Kingmaker. This is a minion. And it's trying to be a more powerful Scarlet Woman. And it is once per game. If 5 players or more live and the demon is executed, you wake to select a player. If an outsider is chosen, they become an evil demon, +1 zealot. So it's the Scarlet Woman with the added upside of creating an extra evil player, but the downside of you could potentially fail. And the zealot existing means that there is a player that is always going to have their hand up when there is a nomination for the Kingmaker to look at and go, that's an outsider. So you can see how in the design, the character that is guaranteed to be in the setup because of the setup instructions works very specifically with the character, and there's 8 different ones because we have 4 minions, 4 demons, each of which do this same thing. They guarantee a specific character is going to be in play, and they work with that character. So Kingmaker is very interesting because of this, and then seeing how that's going to play out. Is Kingmaker going to find an outsider that is not the Zealot and potentially pass the demon to them, or is the Zealot always someone that needs to be executed early because people are worried that it might become the demon? So I think that is interesting. And what I also like about this is that if the Zealot shows up in a game that does not have the Kingmaker, people are suddenly very wary of this character, right? And they're like, oh, do we have to execute that in case there is a Kingmaker? Because you would never know. Like that character being in play does not guarantee the Kingmaker is in play, but the other way around. It's slightly more likely the Kingmaker is in play if a Zealot is present. So I think that is interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing this one come into play, and whether or not that it will activate. It's just kind of like, oh, well, here's my last ditch effort. If this turns out to be really underpowered, I might add an even if you are dead or something like that to make it kind of work. But at the moment, I'm pretty happy with it. Next up is Ace. This is another character like the Stargazer that works well specifically on this script because of Uno, who we will learn about in a minute. But Ace's ability is each night guess one in-play character, then learn how many you've gotten correct this game. So it will remember all of your guesses, right? You just basically track a number in front of the player that is the Ace, and you go, okay, on the first night, because there's no asterisk, on the first night, Ace goes, I'm the Ace. And then you go, yes, good job. And then Ace is like, fantastic, I have a 1. And then on the next day, let's pretend this is our setup, Ace guesses washwoman. There's no washwoman in town, so Ace receives a 1 still. And that's kind of how it will go. Every time they get a correct guess, the number will go up, and the higher the number they get is kind of, how many days they guess correctly, which I think is kind of cool. Basically, if somebody claims a character to you as the Ace, you can go, well, is this character in play? I'll check. And then see how that goes. Now, it doesn't confirm a specific person, because somebody else might be claiming a character that is in play that is not the specific person. So I think that will be interesting as well. But this mechanic in particular works well on this script because we have Ceremonious. Ceremonious is a minion. Each night, Asteris, choose a player. All outsiders are mad they are that player's character, or the chosen player dies tonight. +1 retainer, who, as you can see, we'll get to in a second. He's over here. Now, this is kind of like the Ceremonious. The Ceremonious selects a player and a character. That player is mad they are that character, or they are executed. The Ceremonious selects a player. All outsiders are mad that they are that player's character. So if the Ceremonious selected the retainer and any other outsiders would have to be mad that they are the retainer, or the retainer player dies tonight. Which is kind of interesting. It means that there will be public noise around the player that Ceremonious picked, always coming from the same outsiders. So Ceremonious and Kingmaker together in the same setup, Ceremonious goes, I've made all of the outsiders matters. This person. Because Ceremonious might select an evil player. They could select themselves, make all the outsiders mad that they are Ceremonious, which is kind of funny. And then the Kingmaker goes, excellent, everyone that claimed to be an evil player today has to be an outsider. That's going to be my Kingmaker choice. So Ceremonious is kind of interesting, but it is also specifically the chosen player dies tonight, which works well with another one of our minions, which we'll get to in a second, Crypt Keeper. And so the idea is that different setups of different minions will work together with a sort of synergy. But it is time for Uno. Uno was a character that I thought was going to be very funny, but I actually really like how it works. It is each night Asteris, choose a player, they die. The classic. Then you may choose to have all townsfolk abilities that receive information in the form of an integer or number receive a 1 instead, +1 mathematician. So you can choose as the Uno for the numbers to be 1 forever, or you can spin a narrative where it would change suddenly, or you can on and off however you want to do it so that the information is cursed in a predictable way. But also existing on the script means that whenever somebody gets a 1, that information is hard to trust. For example, the ace guesses ace on the first night, gets a 1. Or guesses anything, any townsfolk, anything gets a 0 or a 1 because Uno would not have activated yet. But then on that second night, ace goes, is this thing in play? This person claimed it to me. The Stargazer, which is in play, claims Stargazer to me, and I say, is there a Stargazer? Uno says everything is a 1. The ace gets a 1. Every guess that the ace makes, it only ever gets a 1, which makes them think that they've only guessed 1 correct in-play character for the entire game, which is a really interesting interaction that makes the ace trust no one. However, if Uno ever decides to allow a number other than a 1 get through, ace knows immediately that it's Uno, because ace's number can only go up by 1 for every guess. If Uno steps on the brakes, ace goes, well, last night I got a 1 and tonight I got a 3. I know for a fact that it's Uno, or I am poisoned by some other way, and there isn't any other poisoning like that on the script. So I think it'll be really interesting if Uno's like, well, do I need to keep everything as 1 forever? Do I want to on and off here? How scared am I of people figuring out what all the numbers are? And we'll go through and look at all the other townsfolk on there, but as you can imagine, stuff like the mathematician always receiving a 1 and some other things like that is going to be really interesting. And I like the idea of Uno a lot. I think it's kind of funny. Next up is the Karddra. This is a Yagababble type character where whenever a player publicly guesses another player's character, the guessed character might die tonight, +1 juggler. So if I said, you, loyal viewer, I believe that you are the juggler, even if you are not, but the actual juggler might die tonight. And then in addition to that, the juggler is in play who wants to guess 5 people on the first day. And so the juggler goes, I think these are these people. And then all the other people that like to double up as the juggler, so the juggler doesn't die at night, also juggle. And suddenly there's 1,000 people claiming hundreds of juggles. And then they all wake up to see 2 or 3 people have died, which would confirm the Karddra, but is very strong. And I think that is going to be really interesting to see how juggle shy people become seeing the Karddra on the script. But I'm really excited to see how this one goes. I think this is an interesting twist on the Yagababble, because the Yagababble phrase is often going to be either unidentifiable or goofy and weird and out of place, and the player is like trying to work this in the conversation. Whereas the Karddra is like, yep, didn't you say you were the mutant? That guy dies. Didn't you say you were the retainer? That guy dies. So it is going to be interesting. Because the other thing is that the minions can be guessing people's characters to help the Karddra kill people. It doesn't necessarily specifically have to be the Yagababble. So I'm curious if this is maybe way too powerful. Just me as a storyteller, I have to be careful. But it kills people based on a specific character. So if they're naming characters that aren't in play, it's going to miss. So you might get not very many kills. It will be interesting to see how well this one balances. But I think it's kind of fun. I'm curious to see how it goes. And then next up we have the Crypt Keeper, which is why so many characters say die tonight. The Crypt Keeper, a minion, says players that have died at night are told privately, if a dead player was executed today, choose someone to die tonight, +1 gambler. When a player is killed by the demon or another effect similar to that, the storyteller wakes up that player and says, you have died. And then when the day starts and we go, no one has died, no one knows if anyone has died, there's no change, the flags don't show up for anyone, the death shroud, and you go, that's it, you have 4 minutes for your day or whatever. I'll see you at nominations and executions. Everyone's like, oh, no one died, sick. But players can bluff that they have been killed and they go, I'm dead. I've been, you know, I've been dead this whole time. I just died last night or whatever. And then if that person is executed, an actually dead player that people don't know that they're dead, then the Crypt Keeper wakes and gets to choose someone to die, adding to the number of people that are claiming to be dead. But this gives the demon the ability to bluff that they have died already, which is kind of cool. And I think will be interesting and add another layer of things for people to worry about. If the Crypt Keeper is executed, all of the players that have died will be revealed, I guess. I'm not really sure how I want to work that one. Do I need to add an even if dead clause? For at least the first half. I don't want the Crypt Keeper killing extra people on the second half, but that's going to be interesting. And the reason why it's +1 gambler, because if the gambler gambles someone, they have a chance of dying, which would add to the number of people that have died at night, which I thought would be kind of interesting. The other option would be like Acrobat, or like another one of those characters that just might die at night, like a Tinker or something. Would be kind of cool, but I think Gambler was an interesting one. And then the next one, the Announcer, I was inspired by the Fearmonger, in that the Fearmonger is the only one that does what it does in the way that it works. I wanted to create a character that did something similar. So we have the Announcer, a minion. Each night, choose a good character. If no one was mad as that character today, someone dies tonight. All players know the character you chose. +1 pixie. So basically the storyteller goes, hey, everyone wake up. I have an announcement. The ace has been announced. And then everyone's like, okay. And then if no one is mad that they are the ace tomorrow, then someone will die. There'll be an additional death. And like, you can see that with the Announcer and with the Ceremonious, the goal is to get a lot of people counter-claiming and doubling up. I think the Announcer is kind of funny. No one has to be mad that they are the ace in that scenario, and a lot of people might claim to be the ace, but if anyone backs down and there's no one left still mad that they were the ace for the entire day, then the Announcer will activate, an extra person will die. And the Pixie, I thought, was an interesting add here, because the Pixie must be mad as the character they saw. They can't be mad as the thing that the Announcer saw, giving you one less townsfolk that is happy to try and play along to the Announcer's ability. One of the other things that I had considered was it had to be good players that were mad. Any mad players, any evil mad players didn't count, and that's possibly too strong, because people go, oh, yeah, there's one person mad as the ace, that's fine, I won't bother. And then there's an extra death. Everyone's like, well, that guy was evil. He had to be evil. And so maybe that's not the best choice, but I do kind of like how it works right now, and I'm excited to see how it goes, because I think announcements during the night are cool mechanically. Then up next we have the Scryer. The Scryer says, each night choose a player, not yourself. A townsfolk chosen registers as evil, and a minion or demon until dawn. You learn their character. This means that if you select an evil player, you will learn an evil character, a minion or demon, whatever they are. If you select a townsfolk, you will learn a minion or a demon. If you select an outsider, you will learn actually an outsider. And this is potentially very strong. They would just see like a ton of evil people everywhere. And I have a hunch that that won't necessarily mean they'll be able to really narrow it down. It kind of works the way the Dreamer does, where it's like, oh, I'm the Dreamer, I saw this person as a minion or a townsfolk, therefore they can't be the demon. I'm thinking it's going to have that same kind of effect to it. But townsfolk chosen register as evil, minion, or demon to the other player's abilities, which is the downside of the Scryer, but I think is going to be really interesting when it comes along to other characters. And when it comes along specifically to Draculord. Draculord is a demon. Each night, Asteris choose a player. If good, they die. You survive execution unless an evil player voted for you, +1 recluse. So a lot about the way this character is worded explains how it works. The first thing, if good they die, means they cannot kill the recluse, they cannot kill the person the scry has selected if that person was a townsfolk. They can't kill their teammates. You survive execution unless an evil player voted for you. So you have to have an evil player doing a silly double bluff vote. You have to have a recluse voting for you, or a player that was selected by the scry, or like the lycanthrope now can make a red herring type thing, voting for the Draculord for them to be executed. Otherwise, it will be protected along the lines of the full tier leader, that type of thing, which I think is really interesting. And it means that the recluse is like, I can't just campaign for everyone to execute me immediately. I'm here with a very important job to do. I have to kill the Draculord. And this is a thing that kind of inspired the creation of the whole script. I had a previous script where I used one called the Walt Cinder, where unless if the damsel voted for you, it would move, which was an adaptation of the Witch King character that I created, which was you survive execution unless if the damsel voted for you, which didn't really work out as good as I wanted to. Whereas Draculord here, I think, is a bit more balanced. It guarantees the recluse is in play. The recluse is not as bad a downside for the good team as the damsel. Also, Draculord cannot kill evil players. So you know that there's no chance an evil player died at night, which is interesting with the Crypt Keeper, because if there's more people than you expect to be claiming to have died at night, then maybe one of them is evil because they cannot be killed by the Draculord. And then having that person that is registering as evil have to vote for the Draculord to kill them means that you've got to be switched on and you've got to be trying to keep your recluse alive. The goal is to stop the recluse being a suicide risk, which I think is really cool here and why I'm excited to see how the Draculord goes. And then our final homebrew character is the Retainer. It is an outsider. If a character you are mad as is executed, they do not die and you die tonight instead. So if the Retainer is mad that they are, let's say, the Balloonist, and the Balloonist is executed, that death is prevented. Same as if the Draculord was not voted on by an evil player, that death is prevented, and then that night the Retainer will be an extra death. So the Retainer will basically learn the character of the person whose death was prevented. And so in this scenario where everyone's like, oh my god, that has to be the Draculord, the next day the Retainer goes, I died last night, I'm the Retainer, I was mad as this yesterday, if you remember. That guy whose death was prevented has to be the Balloonist or whatever, which means that the evil team does potentially have a backup to rescue the Draculord from a failed bluff, but there is a bunch of other, death prevention characters on the script, and the Retainer is kind of interesting that it works along in that way. But in addition, it is the summoned character by the Ceremonious, because the Ceremonious chooses a player and outsiders have to be mad they are that player's character, or the chosen player dies tonight. If the chosen player is instead executed, the Retainer dies tonight. So I think the way that it works is going to be really interesting, and how scared people are of the Draculord will make the Retainer potentially a very interesting character. I think it is, for the most part, a detriment to the good team because they're always going to be mad as an in-play character. They're trying to double bluff all the time, which makes information harder to get by and people harder to trust. But they can potentially get a protection off, which makes them a good character, a good player. Not useless. Let's go through the whole script. What other characters did we get added? Well, we know we have the Recluse and the Zealot because they are added by our other characters in here. The Kingmaker makes a Zealot and the Dracula makes a Recluse, but we also have the Puzzle Master. because we can't have the drunk because of the Ceremonious. The Ceremonious would activate, and all outsiders are mad, and then the drunk goes, "Oh, I'm the drunk because I'm affected by the Ceremonious." Instead, the puzzle master then has to be like, "Well, I'm mad as this thing, but also someone's puzzle drunk, and I can't really communicate that publicly," which I think will be interesting. One of the other characters that did not make it onto the Racker, but is a custom homebrew one, is the Mortsafe Cracker. It is one that I've had in a couple of other scripts before, and I'm trying to find a new home for it here. It is on the night before the final day. If you're still alive, learn all of the dead evil characters. The first time you would die, you do not. It both facilitates the Draculord as a bluff, because there's another reason somebody might not die, and that could be the MSC. And then the other option is learn all of the dead evil characters, which works nicely in a Crypt Keeper setup, because you go, oh, actually, this minion is dead, this minion is dead, this demon is dead, a Kingmaker must have activated. Now I know things about the game, which I think works really well. This is possibly the best script for the Mortsafe Cracker. I've had it on other scripts before, and it hasn't really worked super well. So I'm excited to see, because this one seems to feel like it fits a lot better than a lot of the others. And then that was all of our outsiders. And this is just our regular townsfolk. We have the Pixie, which is summoned by the announcer. We have the Empath, which works really nicely in Uno, because they might have two good neighbors. And then Uno says, but that's a 1. We have the Sailor, which is another death prevention character the Draculord may bluff as. We have the Mathematician. There's really not likely to be a number higher than 2 for the Mathematician, but getting zeros I think would be very helpful. We have Scryer, Ace, Stargaze. We have the Gambler. The Gambler is going to be really hard, because a lot of people are going to be mad that they are a character. So I think the Gambler will be really interesting here. Same with the Juggler, trying to guess what people's characters are. We have the Gossip, which I think works really well with the Crypt Keeper, because the Gossip will be potentially adding extra deaths at night. Extra deaths that will not be revealed, that most people will know that they have died. Then we have the Slayer. Then we have Slayer, which is called by the Flintlock. Then we have the Farmer, which is our last one, which is again a dies at night thing, but it's not specific to the demon. It's just if you died at night, and a live good player becomes a Farmer. So the Farmer is really good for Announcer, Crypt Keeper, and Ceremonious, all potentially getting extra deaths at night, so that the Farmer can activate. I'm actually really interested to see how the script goes. I think there's a lot of really cool things on there, and I really like the idea of each character in play having a paired set up added character. So I'm curious to see how this all goes. I would definitely like to hear your thoughts in the comments. A lot of times I have posted videos like this where I talk about characters, and then people in the comments have been like, have you thought about this thing? And I've been like, damn, I did not. That is a really good suggestion. So I do appreciate when people chime in with their 2 cents, because it helps me out. You know, I'm not omnipotent or omniscient. I'll make mistakes, I'll forget things. And usually through playtesting, which is just running the game and seeing how it goes, is how something gets to perfect, is how something will get to its good final version. But a lot of that does come from feedback and people suggesting ideas on how to fix stuff, and that's why I always welcome that kind of thing. But if you're excited to check this out, stay close to the channel, hit the subscribe button, because I'll be uploading videos of this one very soon, and you can come and check it out, see what kind of chaos we have cooked up this time.